I, 31M, don't know how to deal with my GF's 34F of 7 years legitimate anger towards third parties. Hi. My girlfriend, 34F, has some issues after going through an objectively shitty childhood and youth, and she developed a number of coping mechanisms that have somewhat destructive side effects. She's in therapy, and she's making progress, but if you were to talk to her for an hour you'd probably notice that life has been a bit of a struggle so far and some topics are bona fide minefields. One overarching theme is the image she has of herself. She's convinced that she's just damaged goods, a collection of flaws and emotional scar tissue that can't do anything right and doesn't deserve anything. Therapy has made this slightly worse, since she's now acutely aware that this self-image is pathological and considers this yet another flaw but a temporary worsening is probably normal in this situation, and I hope it's really just temporary. One intermediate goal of therapy was getting a job. She's been a freelance artist for a number of years, but she always considered this a cop-out and wants something that seems like a nuisance to many people. A boring, regular, 9-5 job that pays the bills. It's not so much about the job itself, it's about building structure into her life and maybe gain some self-confidence since she'd be self-sufficient, etc. So far, so good. Since she doesn't have a degree of any kind and no work experience, outside of drawing neat stuff, she started applying for entry-level positions in the area and actually landed a position she was happy with. And another one. And another one. And now she needs to land another one. What keeps happening? The only companies that were interested in hiring her turned out to be horrendously unethical. Since we live in Germany, we have quite a number of workers' protection laws that regulate all the modalities of hiring and firing people. At will employment isn't a thing here, but there are loopholes, and one such loophole is firing people just before the probationary period is up while motivating them with a metaphorical carrot on a stick. We're totally looking for a new colleague in our team, not just a temporary worker we'll replace ASAP. This carrot on a stick might be annoying to a lot of people, but it's a vicious punch into the guts for people like my girlfriend who are convinced that it's all their fault and she doesn't deserve anything. So she gets sad and angry, and that's understandable. But I struggle with this. This anger is mostly directed at herself, and I have absolutely no idea how to save her from herself. The first 2 times this happened, I could calm her down by assuring her that this isn't at all related to her but a shit thing some shit companies do to people, but this isn't really a convincing argument if it keeps happening, and I don't think telling her, well see, the positions you're qualified for are extremely easy to replace, would help, because holy shit, that's probably the worst thing I could possibly say. Her anger, although misdirected, is completely justified, and I think she should be allowed to be angry, but I don't know what to do here. How to steer the anger in the right direction. Or if that's even a smart thing to do. I don't really want her to lose her shit and punch some HR person in the mouth either. And how do you tell a partner that things are going to end up okay if the world keeps handing her new bullshit to deal with? Too long did not read. Girlfriend aims her anger that should be aimed at third parties at herself, considers shit situations proof that she doesn't deserve anything and that the world hates her, and I have no idea what to do other than patting her on the head and saying, there. I feel like if she's been a successful freelance artist, there needs to be a way to spin it as experience in a resume. I'm going to add another plug for trauma-informed therapy. I have made more progress in a couple of months with a somatic and EMDR therapist than I made in years of traditional talk therapy. Isn't this exactly the kind of thing she should be talking about with her therapist? I would suggest looking into trauma-informed therapy and techniques. Therapy is good, but focused care in relation to trauma and the legitimate physiological responses developed are very important. CPTSD is a whole different animal than, say, depression or anxiety. The level of self-hate, among other things, that I carried for years was resistant to traditional therapeutic techniques. My biggest progress was made once I entered into focused trauma care. How about she engages in learning, mastering a monetizable skill? Will that increase her self-worth and maybe apply somewhere that'd keep her longer? I am German myself and struggle a lot in my life too. Something that helped me a lot was to get my Abitur. IDK what school she finished, but if she has her Mittelreife Reife, she can go to an evening school and do her Abitur. It gives her structure in her life, and when shush is done there are a lot of doors open for further education or starting some sort of apprenticeship. And no, she isn't too old for that. We had a lot of people her age in my class and they were able to get good jobs after. Validate, commiserate, affirm. I just made that up. This is tough. The only thing you can probably do here is tell her often that she is valuable, she is deserving of good things. myself, and I think many women, need to hear affirmations multiple times before it'll sink in, especially when struggling. Tell her it's the world that's a tough place, but she is doing a good job at working on what really is in her control. Shitty childhoods can make someone very focused on control, but inappropriately directed at themselves, because that's what they could control as a kid. Remind her often that some things are out of her control. Also, try to prompt her to say what she does like about herself, but tactfully somehow. Self-hatred is really hard to deal with. I tend to ask people to be kind to themselves as a favor to me, and it can break through some of the walls. Making an effort to treat her, complimenting her, and telling her what you admire about her might also help. She needs a new therapist. Directing anger at yourself instead of those who deserve it is one of the example cases of things to work on with a therapist. Self-destructive behavior can be worked on effectively in therapy. Maybe she can find a therapist that specializes in this. Don't try to save her from herself. She's the only one who can save herself, but you're being very supportive, which is wonderful. Her therapist needs to help her learn mechanisms for coping with this stuff, including helping build her self-esteem. But also, she may be doing something wrong to be continually let go. I understand you believe that it's companies hiring her to do temporary work, but for it to happen 3 or 4 times would suggest that maybe she isn't very good at her job, or is doing something to put him off of her. Could she talk to a career counselor or meet with someone in her field to talk things through? Oh, I relate to this so hard. A lifetime of being told you're shit means that every little thing that goes wrong reinforces the idea that you're shit. You can be there for her and help, but eventually you have to step back. She is in control of her life, health, income, stability. You can give her advice and encourage, but at the end of the day she alone pilots her ship. Her internal monologue is self-defeating. She needs to work on that. All you can do is suggest and try to give love. If it's too much for you, be honest with yourself before you burn out of the relationship. Unfortunately, you can only help her to a point. She needs to work in therapy and you can give her emotional support, but you can't control what she does or how she feels. Maybe you can help resumes or the sort, but she getting a job is out of your control. Someone dear to me once said, I know I am going through a rebirth cycle because everything seems dark, I am being squeezed from every direction, everything seems new and confusing, and I want to wail like a newborn. Just let her know it's going to be okay. Others are giving great feedback, so I'll be that guy. Instead, you're German, so obviously your English grammar is better than most Anglos, Americans, but you're mixing idioms. One phrase is carrot on a string. Yes, that string would be on a stick, but let's not quibble. The image is that the carrot is held in front of horse, mule to motivate him to move to try to get the carrot. It's a reward that's just out of reach. Carrot and stick is a reward, punishment motivation system. I'm going to offer you this carrot as motivation, and if that doesn't work, I have a stick. I also have childhood ACEs that left me with the belief that I am a useless, damaged person who hates themselves. Why not ask her to apply for some part-time courses and study a new skill that is in demand while trying to turn her art into business if it's possible. As for what you could do, make her smile, keep her positive and optimistic. Talk to her and slowly try to make her understand. I understand it will be taxing and need to be repetitive, but if you can slowly increase her confidence in herself, it's going to be slow and sometimes it could hurt you too, so be ready. Had to go through some issues like that with my wife. And statistics and studies can prove anything you want them to, depending on who is funding them. Check out the 3 principles and Byron Katie's Loving What Is with an Open Mind. I'm someone who went through tie hole, damaged goods, narrative myself. Did therapy, medication, hypnosis, and so many things that ve forgotten them. And I'm open to anything. Not because I think magic will happen and I'll become okay, but because every bit of insight helps, whether it comes from a tarot card reader, a mullah, or a therapist. Byron Katie, The 3 Principles, with many writers about it. Dr. Amy Johnson and others can help. I honestly didn't read your post in detail, but I know that state. Give these folks and ideas a try. Could she get a job that's more related to her freelance work? You are so sweet to put this much thought into it. I struggle with similar issues and it wears partners out. I am in therapy and I am trying, but I'm ultimately convinced no one should ever have to deal with me when I'm anything but amazing and perfect. It sucks. I'd be glad if I could be loved through it while I slowly improve, but not sure how possible that is. Not your job to fix her. Maybe just accept her as is and set any boundaries needed to keep your energy for her in good shape. She should be talking about this with her therapist. There's not much you can do, sadly. Shushes 34. She has to be able to handle this on her own as much as that is shit to say. You are doing all you can. One overarching theme is the image she has of herself. She's convinced that she's just damaged goods, a collection of flaws and emotional scar tissue that can't do anything right and doesn't deserve anything. Sounds like she wasn't ready to get into a relationship. Honestly, this is terrifyingly close to my last ex. I tried to help her navigate her trauma and get healthier coping skills, and along the way we developed a really unhealthy dynamic where I thought of her as unreasonable and childish. The breakup was absolutely catastrophic. All that anger turned towards me, and she started telling anyone who would listen that I'm a horrible human being. I lost a number of good friends over it. And #X200B. Run. Smash some second-hand plates. I had a friend that did that. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, op. It's great that she's getting help and things are slowly getting better, but you don't have to stay if this relationship is unhealthy for you. It will take a lot of time for her to work through her trauma. You don't have to stay with an unhealthy partner, not to jab at her, but she's not currently in a healthy state and likely won't be for a long time. It is okay for you to stay, but it's also okay for you to go and find a partner who is on your level mentally and financially, career-wise. I also have childhood ACEs that left me with the belief that I am a useless, damaged person who hates themselves. Honestly, there's not much you can do. If you're worried that your girlfriend might violently lash out at people, then maybe this isn't a relationship you want to salvage anyway. It sounds exhausting constantly dealing with her anger and insecurities. It might be better for her to be single and focused on her therapy.